The golden satin gown of the future stepmother floated in the lake in front of her house like a flag of surrender, while 17-year-old Sophia Hawthorne leaned over the mansion's balcony. The result of what she would later call an impulsive artistic experiment. At that moment, her father, Lord Edward Hawthorne, with a furrowed brow and an incredulous look, delivered the sentence. "Boarding school in the countryside of England, immediately." Sophia laughed, thinking it was a joke. But when the butler appeared with a ticket for the next day, her laughter died. Countryside? England? Boarding school? She, who had never gone a month without a manicure or a gala ball, was now being sent to a place with wet lawns and people who called dinner supper? Thus began Sophia's exile. When the carriage passed through the towering gates of Havenwood College, Sophia understood why her father had sent her there. It was an imposing castle with a gray facade that resembled a prison and windows so small that sunlight barely penetrated. The air was thick with discipline, tradition, and the promise that no one escaped unpunished. The headmistress, Lady Marjorie Kingsford, awaited her in the foyer. Her eyes were as cold as the marble floor. "Miss Hawthorne, we shape diamonds here, and you appear to be nothing but raw coal. But don't worry, we have effective methods." Sophia was not intimidated. Her response was a smile as fake as her stepmother's compliments. "How lucky you are to have such a rare piece of coal like me, don't you think?" First day of torture. In the shared dormitory, Sophia met her roommates, the sarcastic Helen, the kind Margaret, and the reserved Eleanor. They were not impressed. "So, you think you're better than us?" Helen teased, looking Sophia up and down. "I don't think so, darling. I'm certain," Sophia replied with a wink, tossing her suitcase onto the empty bed. After an uncomfortable night, Sophia decided she wouldn't stay there. She wasn't made for Havenwood's regime, and it was time to make that clear to everyone. Escape plans. Sophia started with small acts of sabotage, sneaking into the kitchen to prepare a disastrous feast, swapping the etiquette instructions in the dance hall for the steps of an invented waltz, and using red paint on the music teacher's white dress. Each attempt failed spectacularly, but caught the attention of William Kingsford, the headmistress's son. They met in the garden, where Sophia tripped over a branch and nearly fell into a small pond. He caught her, laughing. "You have a talent for chaos." She raised an eyebrow. "And you have a talent for watching. Want to help me, or just laugh at me?" William, with a teasing smile, replied, "I can do both." The challenge that just began. Despite the failures, Sophia felt that something was changing. Her roommates started laughing at her mishaps and even helping her. She still wasn't sure if she trusted them, but Helen declared, "If you want to get out of here, you'll need allies. Luckily for you, we love trouble." As she watched the twilight from the window, Sophia began to wonder, was it truly possible to escape Havenwood? Or was it something else keeping her there? Sophia woke to the sound of frantic knocking at the door. Before she could fully open her eyes, Helen poked her head through the gap. "Wake up, Your Majesty. We have work to do." "Is it time to act against the dictatorship? Or do you just want to steal cookies from the kitchen again?" Sophia replied in a sleepy voice, though a smile betrayed her feigned annoyance. Helen rolled her eyes and tugged Sophia out of bed. "If you really want to get out of here, we're going to need something grand. Think fireworks." Literally. The first conspiracy. During breakfast, Helen, Margaret, and Eleanor gathered with Sophia in a discreet corner of the dining hall. Between bites of bland porridge, Helen revealed her plan. Use gunpowder from the old decorative cannons at the school to stage a theatrical accident. The goal is to make the headmistress believe you're a public danger. There's no way she can keep a potentially explosive student here, Helen explained, a mischievous glint in her eye. Sophia, hesitant, crossed her arms. "What if this goes wrong? I'm not exactly eager to be expelled via catapult." Eleanor, for the first time, spoke. "This won't work if you keep thinking like a coward. You need to look brave, even if you're terrified." The plan in motion. By nightfall, the four friends, armed with improvised tools, sneaked into the back courtyard where the rusted cannons adorned the lawn. The plan was simple but disastrous: to fire one of the cannons toward the main hall. As Sophia adjusted the gunpowder with trembling hands, William appeared out of nowhere, casually leaning against a tree. Are you planning to bring down the school or just scare the birds? Sophia nearly dropped the match. Are you spying on us now? That's an invasion of privacy, you know. Maybe, he replied, laughing, but I thought I'd mention that the cannon's angle is off. If you light it like this, you'll end up hitting the bell tower. Sophia stared at him, surprised. You're helping me? William tilted his head. Let's just say I love watching a good spectacle, but if I'm going to watch, it might as well be done properly. The catastrophic result. With William's improvised guidance, they adjusted the cannon and lit the fuse. For a moment, nothing happened. Sophia began to relax, thinking it had all been a failure. Then, a deafening explosion echoed across the campus. The main hall's window shattered, and smoke rose in dramatic spirals. Alarms blared, and outraged voices echoed from every direction. Sophia froze as William chuckled softly beside her. You wanted attention. Well, now you have all the attention in the world. The consequences. The next day, Lady Kingsford summoned Sophia to her office. Sitting before the headmistress, Sophia feigned a composure she didn't feel. What do you have to say about last night's incident? The headmistress asked, her eyes piercing Sophia like spears. Sophia shrugged. Maybe the school needed a bit more excitement. Lady Kingsford didn't smile. You can consider yourself lucky that I'm not calling the police, but rest assured, Miss Hawthorne, there will be no further opportunities for your antics. An unexpected turn. Despite the scolding, Sophia was welcomed as a hero by her roommates. You did it, Sophia, Helen exclaimed, hugging her enthusiastically. But there was something different in the air. The explosion hadn't only caught the headmistress's attention. Sophia realized she was now the center of attention for Jane Ashbourne, the school's favorite student and the declared rival of anyone daring to outshine her. Jane met her in the hallway the next day with a venomous smile. What a wonderful performance, Miss Hawthorne. You must be so proud of destroying a 200-year-old window. Sophia didn't back down. If you'd like me to destroy another, just ask. The mystery deepens. While Sophia celebrated her small triumph, William approached her discreetly in the garden. You know she's going to try to destroy you now, right? He said, referring to Jane. Let her try. I can handle it. William hesitated, and for the first time, there was something more serious in his tone. It's not just about her. There are things in this school you don't understand yet. Be careful, Sophia. Before she could ask more, he vanished. The candles flickered in the dimness of the library, casting dancing shadows over the shelves. Sophia, determined to uncover what William meant about secrets, had snuck in after curfew. The place was oppressively silent, save for the sound of her own footsteps echoing. As she scanned the aged spines of the books, something caught her eye. A seemingly ordinary shelf concealed a worn, untitled volume. When she pulled the book, a mechanical click echoed, and to her surprise, the shelf slid slowly aside, revealing a narrow passageway. Sophia held her breath. This is more exciting than any party in London, she murmured to herself before stepping in. The secret passage. The corridor was cold and damp, lit only by spaced torches. As she moved forward, Sophia felt a mix of adrenaline and fear. After a few meters, she reached a circular room. In the center, there was a table scattered with documents, maps, and a familiar emblem, the Havenwood College crest. Before she could investigate further, she heard footsteps. Quickly, she extinguished the candle and hid behind a column. A familiar voice echoed in the room. If she finds out about this, we'll have no choice but to remove her. It was Jane. A personal revelation. Back in the dormitory, Sophia told Helen and Margaret about the secret passage. She said, remove her. That sounds far more sinister than expulsion. What exactly is going on in this place? Helen frowned. I always knew Havenwood had dark stories, but this feels genuinely dangerous. Margaret, usually calm, was alarmed. Maybe you should stop. This might be more serious than it seems. Sophia, however, was determined. If Jane is involved, that's just more reason for me to keep going. Tension with William. The next day, Sophia found William in the garden again. He stood by an oak tree, tossing pebbles into a still pond. You knew about the passage, she accused bluntly. He sighed. Of course I knew. But it's dangerous, Sophia. Why do you always run toward trouble? Because it has the terrible habit of chasing me, she replied, crossing her arms. William took a step closer, his gaze more serious than she had ever seen. This isn't a game. Havenwood isn't just a school, Sophia. There are things here you don't understand. If you keep digging, you might get hurt. Or worse. For a moment, something passed between them, a tension filled with concern and something deeper. But before she could respond, William turned away, leaving her alone with her questions. Jane makes her move. While Sophia pondered William's words, Jane was busy crafting her plan to discredit her rival. During afternoon tea, she approached with a falsely friendly smile. Sophia, I heard you've been exploring the school. How adventurous of you, Jane said, her tone dripping with poisonous sweetness. Sophia responded in kind. Well, some of us prefer exploring to manipulating, Jane, to each her talents. Jane's smile hardened. Careful, Sophia. Sometimes people who think they're too clever end up tripping. And risky invitation. That night, Sophia received an anonymous note slipped under her door. The words were simple but unsettling. If you want answers, meet me on the cricket field at midnight. Helen thought it was a trap. You can't go. Jane is probably planning to ambush you. Sophia, however, was determined. If it's a trap, I'd better find out now. But if it's someone willing to help, it might be my chance to understand what's going on here. The midnight meeting. Dressed in a heavy coat, Sophia crept down to the cricket field. The moonlight illuminated the grass, and the silence was absolute. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness. To her surprise, it wasn't Jane. It was Eleanor, the quiet roommate. You came, Eleanor said, her expression somber. Sophia narrowed her eyes. You knew about all of this the whole time, didn't you? About the passage, about Jane, about the school. Eleanor hesitated before responding. There's much more here than you realize. Jane isn't just cruel, Sophia. She has power, and if you're not careful, she'll use it against you. Before they could continue, a sound interrupted them. Voices. Lanterns lit up in the distance, and hurried footsteps echoed across the field. Eleanor grabbed Sophia's arm. Run! The footsteps behind them quickened, echoing across the cricket field like a war drum. Sophia, her heart racing, ran alongside Eleanor until they found a narrow path leading to the edge of the forest. They only stopped when the sound of voices and lanterns faded into the distance. Eleanor leaned against a tree, breathless, but Sophia didn't relent. Now you're going to tell me everything. Who's after us? And what is it that Havenwood is hiding? Eleanor looked at her with an expression that mixed exhaustion and fear. Sophia, you don't understand. Havenwood isn't just a school. It's a battlefield of interests, and Jane is at the center of it. Eleanor's past. As they walked back to the dormitory, Eleanor began to speak. She recounted how her family, one of the most traditional in Hampshire, almost lost everything in a financial dispute with Jane's family. To regain their standing, Eleanor was sent to Havenwood with a mission: to observe Jane and gather information. The problem is, Jane found out, Eleanor said, her voice tense, and now she keeps me under control with threats. If I say anything, my family will be ruined. Sophia frowned, processing the information. What does this have to do with me? Why is Jane so determined to destroy me? Eleanor hesitated before answering. You caught William's attention. That alone is enough for Jane. But I think she also realizes you're not easily controlled. That scares her. A plan in motion. The next morning, Sophia gathered her roommates in the dormitory. Eleanor, hesitant, agreed to reveal everything she knew about Jane and the school's secrets. Helen, ever practical, said, If Jane has something to hide, we need to find out what it is. The more information we have, the better we can turn the tables on her. Margaret, more cautious, asked, What if we get caught? We're already on the headmistress's radar. Sophia stood up, determined. I didn't come to this school by choice, but if I'm staying, I won't let Jane intimidate me. It's time to show her I'm not someone to mess with. William's approach. Later, Sophia found William in the stables. He was tending to a horse, his movements methodical and careful. I need your help, she said bluntly. William raised an eyebrow, but the glint in his eyes showed he was more intrigued than surprised. "And what exactly do you want me to do? Be your accomplice in another explosion?" "I want you to tell me what you know about Jane and Havenwood." William stopped, staring at her for a moment. "Sophia, you're playing with fire. Jane isn't just a spoiled girl. She's dangerous, and Havenwood has rules you don't understand." "Then make me understand," she insisted, stepping closer. "You know more than you're letting on. Why won't you tell me everything?" William sighed, but before he could respond, Jane appeared at the stable's entrance, her narrowed eyes sharp as blades. "What a charming scene," she said, with a venomous smile. "But you should be careful, Sophia. It's not wise to stay so close to people who can't protect you." A strategic counterattack. Determined to act, Sophia and her friends began investigating the school's old records. With Eleanor's reluctant help, they discovered that Jane was involved in more than social manipulations. She had access to a mysterious financial fund used to influence the board's decisions. "So she bribes everyone?" Helen asked, incredulous. Eleanor nodded. "Basically, but no one dares to confront her because she knows everyone's secrets." Sophia smiled. "Except ours, and that's where our advantage lies." The Reputation Ball. The highlight of the term was the Winter Ball, a grand event where students showcased their elegance to the school's patrons. Jane, as always, was the center of attention, wearing an exuberant red gown that seemed to scream, "I own the world." Sophia, on the other hand, wore a simple yet elegant gown borrowed from Margaret. Despite its simplicity, her confidence was undeniable. William, dressed impeccably, approached her with a smile. "You look stunning." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Is that a compliment or an attempt at distraction?" "Maybe both," he replied, offering his hand for a dance. The twist at the ball. While they danced, Sophia noticed Jane watching from a distance, her expression growing darker. But during the final song, the unexpected happened. One of the hall's lanterns fell, sparking a small fire. Jane was quick to point at Sophia. "It was her, always causing trouble." Sophia was ready to defend herself, but William intervened. "That's ridiculous, Jane. Everyone saw it was an accident." The tension was palpable, but Jane stepped back, though her gaze promised revenge. The winter ball fire cast a shadow over the school, but Sophia wasn't about to let Jane get away with it. Back in the dormitory, she gathered Helen, Margaret, and Eleanor to plan the final blow. "Jane used that fire to try and blame me. She wants to destroy me," Sophia said with determination. "But this time, we're going to fight back." Helen, who loved a bold plan, gave a sly smile. "If Jane plays dirty, it's time to get our hands dirty too, but smartly." Jane's secret. Eleanor finally revealed the key to taking down Jane, a record of financial transactions stored in the headmistress's office safe. The account linked to the financial fund showed suspicious activity, including bribes to teachers and extravagant purchases that clashed with the school's budget. "If we get those records, we can expose Jane to the entire school. Not even Lady Kingsford could protect her," Eleanor explained. Sophia nodded. "Then we'll break into the office." Margaret raised her eyebrows. "Of course, because breaking into a locked room is so easy." Helen shrugged. "We've set things on fire before. Breaking into an office should be a breeze." The nighttime break-in. That night, with the school shrouded in silence, the girls put their plan into action. Helen, always fearless, used an improvised hook to open the office window. Sophia and Eleanor slipped inside while Margaret kept watch outside. The safe was behind a wall panel, just as Eleanor had described. Sophia tried turning the dial, but the safe wouldn't open. "Let me try," Eleanor said, with the precision of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Seconds later, the safe clicked open, revealing a stack of papers and a thick notebook. Sophia grabbed it, quickly flipping through until she found what she was looking for, enough evidence to take Jane down and expose her schemes. "We've got what we need. Let's get out of here before we're caught," Sophia whispered. Jane's counterattack. The next morning, Jane appeared more confident than ever, as if certain that Sophia would be expelled any moment. She didn't know that Sophia and her friends were planning her downfall. During breakfast, Sophia stepped onto the makeshift stage in the dining hall. Holding a copy of the evidence, she addressed everyone. "If I may have a moment, I'd like to share something very interesting I discovered about our dear classmate Jane," Sophia began, her voice calm but firm. Jane stood abruptly, trying to interrupt. "What are you doing? You don't have permission to be there." Sophia held up a sheet of paper. "I have here financial records showing how Jane has been using school funds for her own benefit. And not just that, there are bribes, manipulations, and much more." The fall of Jane. The dining hall erupted into murmurs. Lady Kingsford was immediately summoned, and Jane tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. "This is a farce! A fabricated lie!" Jane shouted, but no one believed her. William, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. "Jane, your arrogance has gone too far. It's time for you to face the consequences." Lady Kingsford, visibly shaken, sighed. "Jane, you will be removed immediately, and we will thoroughly review the school's administration." Jane was escorted away, her hateful gaze fixed on Sophia. A new beginning. With Jane out of the way, Sophia finally felt she could breathe. She went to the garden, where she found William. "So, you did it," he said with a smile. "You brought Jane down." "It was a team effort," she replied, though there was pride in her voice. William stepped closer, his eyes fixed on hers. "And now, what's next for Sophia Hawthorne?" She shrugged, smiling. "I'm still deciding, but for now, I'm thinking of enjoying the peace." "Peace?" he asked, leaning in. "I'm not sure someone like you was made for peace." Before she could respond, he kissed her. It was a moment that made the world around them disappear. Epilogue: The New Order. Without Jane, Havenwood became a different place. Sophia, Helen, Margaret, and Eleanor forged a strong friendship, and life at the school began to flourish again. Lady Kingsford, impressed by Sophia's courage, began trusting her to help organize events and bring fresh ideas to modernize the school. William remained close, though his relationship with Sophia continued to be a dance of teasing and passionate moments. Sophia, for the first time in a long while, felt she had a place where she truly belonged. Subscribe, like, share!